Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll be bringing you my My Hero Academia Chapter 322 read-through. Now, before we get started with this, apparently there is no chapter this coming Friday, so there won't be a chapter read-through of that this coming Monday or Tuesday, whichever day this releases. And also, this is my second attempt recording this video, mainly because I last recorded it at 5:30 in the morning after having been awake since 7 the previous morning. So yeah, it wasn't that good, and I thought I can do better. So this will probably be half a day to a day late, depending on whether I do 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. Anyway, the chapter opens exactly where the last chapter ended, with Midoriya and Ida flying through the air holding hands. And Midoriya thinks to himself, even though I need to let go, I can't muster the strength. He starts tearing up again, but before he can tell Ida to let go or try and pull away, Uraraka releases her quirk and the two boys come rocketing down towards the ground. And as they're falling, Ida begins surveying the landscape to try and find a place to land safely. And as he's looking around, he notices that there's someone running beneath them with their arms outstretched. Kirishima-kun? Kirishima manages to catch the two using his Red Riot form to stop them from toppling him over. As Toru says, "Well, you're all right. I won't fall over. Midoriya, I remembered an old story that was on the news. A kid my age rushed to save his friend from a villain. That was you, wasn't it? Being a hero has nothing to do with being special or strong. I think your attitude from back then is the key to what's happening right now. You're here just at the right time, Kirishima. I was ordered to come here by Endeavor. It was completely by coincidence." As Ida thanks Kirishima for catching them, the rest of Class 1A manages to make their way over to their location as well, with Mina saying, "Midoriya, enough of all this stuff about being alone. Come back to us. Let's all go back to having classes together." Midoriya struggles to stand up while Kirishima tries to hold him back, saying, "Hey, Midoriya-kun, I would love to come back, but it's too dangerous. There are a lot of people at UA. I don't want to cause them trouble anymore. I can't go back to how I was before." He moves to shrug Kirishima off, but he stops when Bakugo speaks up, saying, "When Shigaraki stabbed me, do you remember what I told you?" "No. I said don't go playing hero by yourself. There's a reason for that. My body compelled itself to move on its own. I couldn't not tell you. I looked down on you for such a long time because you were quirkless. I'm supposed to be so much better than you, but every time I looked at you, you kept moving forward, as if you could surpass me. I resented it. I hated that attitude. I didn't want to accept it one bit." Now, pausing the dialogue, I just want to say I love what Horikoshi did in this scene. How, as Bakugo is talking about the different periods in their life, he actually draws them in the appropriate age, but with the same expressions that their current bodies have. So it starts with them in kindergarten. "That's why I grew so distant from you and always tried to beat you down. I opposed you and tried to show my superiority over you, but I always lost. After entering UA, absolutely nothing went as I thought it would. I spent all my days trying to figure out your strengths, your weaknesses. It probably doesn't mean anything telling you all this, but That's what I really think. Izuku, I'm sorry for everything I've done up until now. And with that, we finally have Bakugo owning up and apologizing for the way he's treated Midoriya. The path you took as the successor of All For One is exactly what All Might did. Your choices, they weren't misguided at all. But as of now, you can barely stand on your own. Your ideas alone can only take you so far. If you ever encounter a road bump, you can always count on us for help. To surpass All Might, your ideal hero, we would all have to protect UA and the civilians in there. It's the only way. You guys are already way ahead of me. To think I told you guys that you wouldn't be able to keep up with me. I'm so sorry. He goes to take a step towards his classmates, but his body shuts down on him. His body finally shuts down on him, and he just passes out, with Bakugo running over to catch him, saying, "It's alright." Class 1A looks on, relieved that Midoriya has finally come to his senses, and also a little shocked at Bakugo's speech. And Momo walks over to stand beside Uraraka, saying, "We've cleared the first hurdle for now. It will only get more difficult from now on." Yeah. We then jump forward. The amount of time it would have taken for them to take Midoriya from Kamino to UA, and one of the classmates say, his eyes are open. He's awake now, 13. Thank you. Do you hear us, Midoriya-kun? Yes. Right now, the majority of the population has evacuated into these shelters. The only ones outside at the moment are the anti-hero vigilantes and radical extremists working alongside prison escapees. Now, pausing the dialogue again, I just want to point out the fact that this is the first time we've ever seen 13 without her helmet on. And also this is the first time in canon that it's showing that 13 is actually female. Because I know there was a lot of confusion back when 13 was a part of the manga with, are they a girl? Are they a boy? Are they a genderless void that, because of what their quirk is, and need their suit to hold form? I know Horikoshi did admit multiple times that 13 was a female in supplementary material, but it was never actually shown or stated in the manga, to my recollection. The number of anti-hero civilians entering each evacuation center due to exhaustion is increasing. Since the extremists tend to work in groups, they are easy to catch. As the evacuation continues, it's getting easier to avoid both groups. Everyone is doing their best in order to improve the situation. The solo journey that you did, it really helped the heroes and the police. UA? Midoriya is confused to see the state of UA, as it is now a fortress. And Sarah says, "The UA barrier is currently activated. This wall is just a taste of what it can actually do. Just hearing about the security system will freak you out. It even connects to Shiketsu High." I want to meet Class A's expectations, but going back is the wrong option for me. Suddenly, 13 hears a noise coming from inside, and as they walk through the gate, they're greeted by a bunch of civilians screaming, saying, "Don't let that boy inside UA. The rumors about a boy that Shigaraki's after. It's him, isn't it?" President Mike is standing there trying to calm everyone down using a microphone, saying, hey, calm down, please. Because, well, sure, he could get his message out to everyone using his quirk, but he'd also send them all flying backwards, so that would probably not go over well. Plus, he may just make them deaf rather than being able to hear his message. The principal explained it all to us. Our safety was guaranteed. Do you understand what that means or not? We left our homes because he guaranteed our safety. So why the hell would you put a ticking time bomb in here with us? It doesn't have to be UA. If you're gonna hide him, do it somewhere else. Midoriya just stands there, listening to what the civilians have to say, and then just turns around and begins to walk away. But Uraraka stops him by grabbing his hand. Don't think about it. Ida-kun, everyone, and Bakugo-kun, you made all this possible. We won't let go of you anymore. We can't. Who will save heroes when they're the ones in trouble? And with that question, the chapter ends. Now, I'm fairly certain this is the second time that we've heard Uraraka say something along those lines. I think she said something similar when reading Deku's letter. But it is a fair question and a good sign to her character's arc as being a support hero. But yes, this was a very good closing chapter for the Midoriya versus Class 1A. Now, yes, there were 3 people who didn't get to actually speak to Midoriya, that being Uraraka, though she'll likely be getting her moment either next chapter, privately, or she's going to confess to Midoriya. I sort of hope she doesn't confess soon, because, well, that would sort of imply that we're reaching the end of the story. Sure, there's not really much that can happen. There's probably a recovery period, a reinforcements period, and then they sort of have to go after Shigaraki. So, realistically, there's not much more story they can do without having another war and it becoming a draw again. But, so, we are in the end game, and a confession between the main protagonist and the love interest usually happens around this part of the story. But the longer it takes to get there, the longer it takes to get to the end of the story, which I want. But now let's look at the other 2 people who didn't speak to Midoriya. We have Hagakure and we have Aoyama. And what are those 2 also known to be? The 2 most likely candidates for the UA traitor, along with Kaminari, but he did speak to Midoriya. Both of them have equal potential to be the traitor, and if the traitor was ever going to come out, now would be the perfect time. While Midoriya is so exhausted that he can't do anything, plus there's unrest within this safety zone because people already feel like him being there is going to bring an attack on them, this would be the perfect time for the traitor to cause an attack at UA. And again, drive a further wedge between the civilians who, especially the anti-hero civilians who are only there because they're exhausted, and those heroes that are remaining in the fight. But yes, this would be the perfect point for the traitor to come out, but that also means that we'd be getting to the end of the story as well, because that's not something you reveal until the final arc. I have just gone on a tangent that is almost completely unrelated to this chapter. I have cut a little bit out of it, hopefully, but I also think it's a fair thing to say at the end of this chapter because it is still somewhat connected to it. But yes, I really enjoyed the chapter. I'm glad that this fight between friends wasn't drawn out too long. I would have liked to have, there were some really weak, hey, you remember this thing? Or, yeah, we've never actually really spoken, but you're my friend. As much as I love Kaminari, and he's most likely my favorite character, that was a piss poor attempt to get someone to come back with you. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end this here because I'm probably going to start rambling and going on tangents again. So if you guys noticed anything in these panels that I didn't touch on and you think are important, if you noticed any of the stuff that I touched on and was incorrect about, like there were a couple ambiguous text bubbles that I tried to assign a character to, but if you think a different character said it, or I just completely misinterpreted what a scene was, or you want to comment down below who you think the traitor is and whether it will be revealed in this upcoming arc, comment them down below. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.